Here we got a bucket of flakes and all kinds of different shapes and sizes, and it's to decide what you can get out of them and how big a point you can get out of them. And I usually, when you have one that has a curl, you're only going to get about this big arrowhead out of it. And this one, when you really look at it, you're going to lose all your color pretty much. You might have a little bit in here. This side will have color, and as I look at some of these here, like this, that's pretty flat. So doesn't take long to make one out of here. You can make a long one unless you break it. But pretty much you can figure you need about this much to get your flakes running across the whole section of your point. That's actually a good flake to do that with. Then, like the ones that are a lot thicker, I use a billet to thin this part out, because if you don't, with pressure flaking, you'll get tingly fingers doing it. And this one, you might, for some reason, so you lose quite a bit on a lot of these, but still they make a lot of nice hunting arrows or small points. Here's one that's a pretty simple one for me. You just take this section, flake it off, and you got a pretty straight piece. You can get a fairly long point with dendritic in it, and fairly wide. And most of this has that dendritic under this part here. Pretty rare stuff. You can see how black it is. A lot of the Flint Ridge has that. And here you can see the beautiful dendritic in it. There's just a lot of, this will make a smaller point, and it's fairly straight on one side, and that's what you look for, is it's straight on one side where you can work off of it. And if it's straight on one side, you can easily work off of that side, flake this side first, bring this in, then you'll have but you can't flake it when it's like this. So what I do is I break those edges off, and I can show you here in a little bit how I do that. And it's just variation, and the thicker they are, you should use a billet to thin some of these out. But again, when you have this flat side, you can pretty much determine how big your point is just from working on that flat side first. Has a ridge on this side, but by working that flat side, you will get it over here to this ridge, and it'll bring that platform over for you. And bigger ones, this here's got cracks in it, right there, there. But it's flat, kind of, so you got this side to work with. Got a little, I don't know, for some reason it feels like a layer there, just on the one side. But you get rid of this whole thing, then you start working on your point. And flakes are just like everything else. You just have to figure out what you want. And this is, you can have a point here or here, or you can have a small one here and one there. But you still have, as long as you have that percussion curl on it, you still have, the first thing you do is you straighten it out so you have a total straight flat side. And this one's even curled. That'd be a challenge. Take a while to do it, but it's still, since it's got green in it, is a nice piece. And there's bigger ones. This is not a good one at all because it's got a line going up through here. You have to imagine yourself making a point over on this side and maybe one here, because that line will affect what you're going to do. But I go through a lot of flakes and all the testing I do with the flint when I pull it out of the kiln. You can just see the variations of colors. But I would use a billet on most of these here to get rid of this part here. Just billet it off. And I'll show you what you just take little steps, just flake them off. If you take too big a bite, it'll snap your blade. It's already down where you can, anytime you have a sharp edge, you have to get that, bring it in a little bit. Show you what I can do. And I do it by just breaking it off one way and then the other until it is totally in there where you want it. And this here actually is so thin that it's probably difficult to do anything with it up at that end. And you can see it's starting to have an edge where you can get a bite. But even up here when you have an edge, it's still low in here, so you still have to bring it in more. Down here, it's low in here. And you can do a lot with a tool like this, just to rake along the edges and pressure them off, so that will save you a lot of time and when it comes to finishing the point and napping it. And you can see this piece here will probably, with this tip, might get a point that long out of it. And maybe the width all depends on, are you getting flakes that are really working for you or whatever. Because a lot of times you can get a little bit of a bad hit if you're using the billet, and it'll change to what you're going to get. It's a lot of hard work to do points out of these flakes because they're so irregular shaped. But on any point, it takes a lot of good concentration, and I use a billet mostly when they're fairly thick. Like this one is, it's got a lot of thickness in there, so I just use a billet and you can pressure flake it also, but a billet will be a little faster. Okay, these pieces here, you got a big bulb. So again, the first thing I do with this one would be the get rid of all the pointy edges. Just break them off. You can see it's, as soon as you got enough where you can braid it and have a little strength in it, and that edge, you can use a billet on. And it also helps with your pressure flaking to get a better bite on it. You can see. And those flakes there, they're only running into there, but that's far enough because you got this side here to deal with. So when you get it ready, it'll flake into that other set of flakes, which is like the center of your point. You need a lot of good abrasion on these because you don't want to make a lot of mistakes on a thin piece. And these flakes are running into the center. Then on this bulb, got a little bit of some wormholes or whatever you call them. Then again, I braided and used the billet because they're so much thicker. And I try not to hit too much in because you'll snap it if you do this type of stuff. Mainly from the side. And you can see a bulb is, because it's already working against, it's already created that bulb and it's kind of working against your flake. But I flake it with a billet when it's that thick. You don't have to, you can still pressure it. Because you might not feel comfortable building this small a piece. Kind of exploded when I hit it because of all the little pyrites or whatever that is in there. Little crystal pockets is what it is. And you can see it's starting to thin down already down in here. And there's like a little double layer. And what I do is I try to get as much of it as you can from the base. Then you got to pressure that part. And regardless how big you think your point arrowhead's going to be, there's always little flaws like the little dry spot in there. So you just try to work around it or through it. Sharp little flakes. Now I'm up just about against that end. Okay, now I'll show you what I do with, there's like a double layer there. Very braided. And what I try to do is just separate those things by pressure flaking. That took a lot of it out, but there's still a little bit there. So what I do is, since the other side needs a little more flaking to work on it. This flint here could actually use another 25 degrees higher in temperature when you heat it. It would help it a lot as far as knappability. One thing I do when I got it down to here, and so this side is high, it's still got that layer. But sometimes if you hit it here, you can get some of the layer will come off, and this might. So what I do is a lot of times I'll try. Takes a very accurate hit with a billet. And then I just go back to pressure flaking. Always make sure you have abrasion on that edge. Now it's gone. But these little holes will help you, will stop your flake a little bit, so it will flake harder. So that's what I want to get rid of. It went all the way up to here. Now it's still not thin enough to notch, so just a little holes in there. It's hard to get a flake to run on that too much. Sometimes you get a piece of flint that is so pretty you're going to try it anyhow. Got a lot of stuff going there to where it was layered. Some of that is real hard to get rid of, but if you put enough pressure on it, it'll go. This here even has a little layer right there. why they didn't want to move when I was putting all that pressure on. And you see a lot of the old points, when they flaked it off, there was little sections of the minerals penetrated it. That's where you get some of the color. It seems it flakes better from this side because there's that lip will stop the flake from coming from that direction. You can see that flake when I'm going to try another set of flakes along here. Maybe I can get them underneath that second layer. It's trying to get under it, but it's pretty difficult. That's about where you'll get it to that point. It seems it flakes better from this side because there's that lip will stop the flake from coming from that direction. You can see that flake when I'm going to try another set of flakes along here. Maybe I can get them underneath that second layer. It's trying to get under it, but it's pretty difficult. That's about where you'll get it to that point. Because this is pretty thick. So what I do, I just come in with a notch here and here. I'll draw it on there. And you see a lot of the fish spears that have this type of notch, especially here in Ohio. That's pretty much what it is right there. That's like a tool they used a lot of. Find a lot of these. I think I found like a dozen of them in a field one day of this type of point. This is an interesting piece because it's got a crystal that goes all the way through to the other side, and it'll probably break, but we'll try it. We'll see where it goes from here. And since it's got a pretty heavy side on it, I'm going to billow it a little bit and pressure it a little bit as I go. I get rid of all the parts I don't want in there, I guess. That's really open quite a bit, but over here it's not, so it may survive, it may not. And this, just the flakes only went into there, and that's because I'll be bringing it all the way in here where I can work with that crystal. I'd like to leave that in the point somewhere. Not because I think I can, it's just because it's kind of cool. Now I want to start flaking some of these this side off. hit it at the same spot, but still have to get it off. That's part of the bulb of percussion. That's why it didn't want to flake. So now I got a cut getting in there toward that crystal, but I'll try to salvage it. See, that bulb of percussion might be okay. Sometimes you kind of crush them, when you take that flake off, and they do strange things. See, that came off there. And the pressure flake with thing like this here, at this point, would probably be pretty difficult. Although I have already. It doesn't appear to be, if it does make an arrowhead, not a very big one. Still going to build it because now I got a line along there that are stacked, but I got to match them from over here. So kind of set them up. So we'll see what happens with this set of flakes, probably. It went into the crystallines. So it didn't work out. You know, I break them just like everybody else does, but it was pretty obvious with that crystal in there that it was going to break. Okay, this flake here, I'm going to see how long it takes to make an arrowhead out of this. It might take me twice as long as most people, but we'll see how it works. Give it a good abrasion. So here's the bulb, so we got to deal with it first right off the bat. This would probably be big enough for a hunting point or something if I don't break it. So it's getting down there to look like an arrowhead anyhow. And it doesn't take that long to make an arrowhead out of a small piece for a hunting arrow or something like that. Maybe 20 minutes or so. And the one reason you usually do the thick part for the tip is because of that bulb. When you look at it, it'll have little internal cracks in there. So you have to bring that in because you know you aren't going to notch through a thicker piece like that. And that's why you use the thinner piece to notch side, because it's easier to notch. And it might, you know, maybe certain instances you might use the tip for the base, but most of the time it's the other way around. So one more set of flakes up here. You can see it's a little thick yet in through there. So if I get that thinned down, I'm going to notch it. I'll use the other tool to notch this with because you can get a thinner notch maybe if I don't break it out. So there it is. It's a little rough yet, but you can touch it up as much as you'd like after, you know, you're done notching it and stuff. But it's ready to roll.